So we want to list the objects for our file browser. There's a couple ways we could do that. I think maybe what we'll do is break up, we'll add to our model two separate fields, one for files and one for folders. So let's call that files, and that will be a slice of string, and we'll call it subfolders, just because calling it folders would be a little confusing since we already have a folder here. So I'll call it subfolders. Okay. So we're going to have a list of files and a list of subfolders. The idea is that I will list all of the folders, and then I'll list all of the files. Okay. So now we just have to fill that. Okay. So maybe at this point, you know, if you wanted to just play around with it, you might just add some examples to make sure that you draw it right. And then subfolders. Okay, so I've added these pre-canned values, which we'll later get rid of, and then we'll go to our template. Here, browse template, and in here we will add the code. So between the ULs we say range dot subfolders. Two spaces there. Range dot subfolders, and then eventually there'll be an end. And between the two we put LIs, and we just say dot. Okay. So we range over the subfolders. For each subfolder, we draw one list entry, and it's a string, so we just do dot. And that'll draw that. And then we do the same for the files. We say range dot files, and then we say end, and then we say li dot li. So we'll draw all the folders and then draw all the files. Okay. So, you know, if we wanted to, we could put in an HTML comment. Maybe that'll be a little easier to debug eventually. And that's basically the idea, is that well, folders and then files, and we should end up with something that looks like this. Okay. So let's see if that renders right. Okay. I'm just going to go ahead and enter that astute curve thing. Oops, you're right. I forgot something. We'll come back to it. Okay, so I listed the folders and then the files. So the model part is right. So now we just have to fill in that field properly. So instead of hard coding the here, we want to actually get those files and subfolders. Okay. So what I want to do is I'm going to create a function that will do that. Rather than like just write the code here, I know that that's probably going to be a fair bit of code, so I want to, just to make it easier, I want to say something like files, subfolders, air, list, bucket. Okay, and I'll pass in a context and the name of the bucket. Now, where's the bucket come from? It's from the session, right? Okay. And then if there's an error, we'll send that. So the idea is that I'm going to, let me add a little comment. Okay. So I'm going to list the bucket, give it a context and the bucket name. It's going to give me back a list of files, subfolders, and possibly an error. Now maybe we should vice versa, but that's just the basic idea, okay? Does that make sense? So we've seen two-value functions very common. This is a three-value function. Those are slightly less common, but you can return as many things as you want. And so we can return three things from our function. We could also just return two or whatever. This is the basic idea. And then if there's an error, we're just going to show that to the user. Okay? So we have files, subfolders. And then the idea here is that I will replace this with the files and this with the subfolders. Okay? So now all I have to do is define this function. Okay? So let's go to our storage go and define that function. So it took into context. It took in the bucket name, and it returned two slices of strings, files, folders, and the array. So one practice is when you have return types like this, which are kind of ambiguous, it's not clear what the meaning of these are. It's clear what the error is, but it's not clear what these are. Sometimes it's good to name them. So if this were an API, you might say, but now we're way off the page. But the point is, if I was exposing this to somebody to use as part of an API, I might do this, because then it's clear, oh, the first thing is the files, the second thing is the folders. Since we're just doing this ourselves, we don't have to do that. So we'll just leave it out. But just if you were actually exposing it, that's probably what you would do. Okay, so the first thing we have to do is get the cloud context. And so we already wrote that, right? And so, because that's what the storage uses. So storage.list objects. You give it the cloud context, the bucket name, and a query. So the query is like this. Sorry, not app engine. Storage.query. And this is actually a pointer to a query. Okay, so we create a nil query, and that's what we'll pass this server. And list objects returns the type here is a star storage dot objects. And if you go look up objects, it would describe it. But it has two things. It has results and I think the other thing is prefixes. And results is like the files, and prefixes is folders. So using those two things, we can create our two lists. First, if there's an error, we need to return that error. Nil error. Otherwise, we can make our lists. So files, it's a slice of string, and folders. Okay. So I'm going to create two empty lists here, and we're going to fill them. So at the end, we're going to return files, folders, nil. Okay. So in between here and here is where we're going to actually try to fill using this. Okay. Actually, I'll pull this up a little. Same as okay. So I'll create them and then I'll fill them and then I'll return. So the way I can do that is these are slices of strings. I'm just at the names, and this has like slice of object, which has inside of it a name property. So I just need to loop over it, right?
I couldn't find, this is where I got stuck. I got list objects, that gave me objects, and then in the docs, I have type object struct, results next to prefixes. Okay, well, you can do it right now, so we'll see if I can keep it on.
So results are the files. And so we can just append .name. Okay. So now the files will have the file name.
Okay, that's what I can figure out how to look at. So you get the object, the OBJ back, and I look up objects, and I get results, which says represents a list of object results. Object, got it, thank you.
Yeah. So it is a little confusing because this is a storage objects, plural.
Yeah.
Inside of it is a results which has a slice of object. And that's because it returns two separate things. It returns, in addition to the files, it returns the prefixes, which is where we get the folders from. So I loop through the prefixes and add them. So I think there's something we're going to have to do here, but we're going to run the code to see what things look like and fix it that way. Okay. We may have to like get rid of the first part of the folder, or add things to it, or take off a trailing flash or something. But for now, let's just do it this way. Okay. So does everybody follow what we're doing here? I got a cloud context to connect to cloud, to the Google Cloud. What am I missing here? Oh. This can return an error. There's one last thing. Sorry. Okay, so back to this. I get my cloud context so I can connect to Google Cloud Storage, and then I'm going to create these two lists. I create this empty query, I pass it here. You could pass no. There's a reason I did this, we'll see in a second, but you could just put no here. You do list objects, and it's going to list everything inside the bucket. The way it lists it is returns two things. It returns prefixes, which are folders, and results, which are files. Okay, they're called objects because it's object storage, but they're files. Okay, and then we return them at the end. So that should give us our two lists. And let's see if this actually works. So I go here and refresh. Not sure why it's so slow. Not for now. And the reason that happened, and Daniel ran into this problem too, is the bucket name is wrong. The bucket name is astute curve 180.22.appspot.com. You've got to have the .appspot.com bit at the end. There we go. So we get one file back. So it does appear to be listing files. If I go to this, down here, look in here, we should have example.txt. So it is listing the contents of this folder properly. Okay? Everybody follow? So let's add a folder called folder 1, and then a folder called folder 2, and see if it lists them too. Okay? So if this is working, I should see folder 1, folder 2, example.txt. So I got the folders, but I got them at the end. And that's probably because that's how I looped over them. So let's see what happened. Or I have it backwards. So let's see. It is supposed to do the subfolders here. So that's probably not the problem. So maybe it's in here. It's possible I have these backwards. Files, folders, files, folders, files, folders. So let's add some debugging, unless somebody sees something obviously wrong here. So we're going to add some logging to see what these are. Subfolders. Just to see what we have. So let me clear this and clear this. Refresh here. Because I expect folder 1 and folder 2 to be on top, to be the first thing. So something's wrong. So the problem is that the files got added to the list of folders. I'm sorry, the folders got added to the list of files. They should be over here in the folders list, and they're not. So something's wrong there, right? So, so that would imply they're in there.
Yep.
Right. So they're part of the results. So if we go to the docs,
Path separator thing, right?
so it says here, where's the star objects? Here it is. Prefix represents prefixes of objects matching but not listed up to and including the requested delimiter. So here's the issue. We didn't pass in a delimiter, okay? So we need to add that. The delimiter, what's the delimiter? Slash. So let's see what that does. Oh, there's a big bug here.
Where's your query? Where's your query?
Well, we'll see the error. No, pointer. This is nil. So you can't do this. You have to either say equal new, or you can just say like that. Okay. So now I'm going to create a query. The issue before was I didn't create it, so when I tried to assign to it, it was like, you can't do that. But this time I created it, so it should. Okay, let's see what happens. There we go. So now I'll notice how to put the folders in the proper location because I used a limiter. The limiter is telling it how to break up to the paths. Because remember, it doesn't actually implement folders, so they're kind of a made-up thing that we put on top of it. So we have to use that. Now the issue is that I want to be able to click a folder, right, to see it. So we can add that pretty easily inside of our, in here. No, not this one, sorry. In browse.html by just adding a link. Okay, and then inside of here, we can put the dot. So this may take a few tries to get right, but I'm thinking what happens if you just put the dot in there? Let's see. Okay, so now we have, this link is just, see how it goes /browse /folder1/. I think that's probably right. Okay, that is what I want to see. I want to see /browse /folder1. So I think this is correct. Now, I might have gotten it a little wrong, and then we might have had to add some content to it, but I think this is probably right. So we can click that, and it takes forever to list. So here's an issue. Now I'm at folder 1, and it's not listing the contents under this folder, it's listing the contents at the root.
Slash is hard-coded.
Yeah, it's because we basically hard-coded, so we need to change that. So in here, we need to add to our list bucket the folder to look at. So at the end here, we're going to add comma folder. So I've added an extra parameter to our function list bucket, and then inside of here, we're going to add it up here. Okay. So I'm just going to take this out. So we list bucket, the context, bucket name, and the folder we want to start at, and then we can say in here, prefix, and the bucket, the folder, okay? So now we're only going to do a query that starts with that string here, which will be folder1/, okay? And so now instead of showing the root, it should show all the files and folders underneath folder 1. So let's see if that works. It listed itself, which is maybe an issue. But we can probably fix that. But to make sure it's working, let's add something in here. So let's see. New folder, folder 1-1. Let's see if it shows up. full. The issue is that it's showing the whole name.
Is it because it's listing dot dot?
No, it's like the full name of the path. But it is working, right?
Oh, right, I see.
And they can keep, oh wait, it's edited twice, so that's not good. So we probably need to fix that. To fix that, we can just do this. Well, this isn't good. I should have called that subfolder. We can say, okay, so what we're doing here, I just renamed it subfolder. I take out the first bit. So we have, we have folder 1 slash folder 1. And I'm taking out this bit. This code, and saying I only want this.
Is folder available as a variable there, or is it
Yeah, remember we passed it at the top of the function?
query?
Up here, it's defined up here, we pass it in, right? This is the prefix we've given, and so we're stripping that out of the front of the string. Okay, so we're only getting the ending part. So let's see what that does. Maybe that'll fix our problem. There we go. So now we have folder 1-1 instead of folder 1/1-1. And there we go. So we're getting somewhere. We should get rid of this guy too, probably. And there's probably other things we can do. But that's the basic idea. Ever understand where we're... Okay. Okay, let me commit that. Okay. So we have not implemented the form for uploading a file. So we need to do that next. Okay. So now we have listing. So now we need to add down here somewhere the uploading of a file. So how are we going to do that? How do we upload a file? Okay, so we look for the method. If it's post, that means somebody's submitted the form at the bottom of the page, this form over here. If they've submitted the form, then we can get the file using rec.form file, which we saw this morning, and we give it the key. We just called it file. And so that's file, header, there, colon. So that's how we get a file out of a form, and then we can post that up. So if error is not equal nil, so if there's an error, we'll return it. Otherwise, we want to upload the file, okay? And so we can copy that out of here, out of this one, because we already did this. So I'm just going to copy that. Okay? So I'm just copying the put file we wrote this morning, and I'm going to put that in our storage.go here at the bottom, below our list. So this is list bucket. Here's put file. I'm going to make one change. I'm going to add the bucket name. I'm going to rename that file name. Okay, so now we'll pass in app engine context, bucket name, file name, and the file contents. And we will get the cloud context. We'll create a new writer. We'll give it the bucket name and the file name. So we're going to rename that to file name. And then it will, make it public, and then also write out the contents for the reader, okay? This now returns an error, so we should catch that. Okay. But like I said, this came from the example this morning. Any questions about that? You know, if we wanted to, we could get rid of this, but this is fine for now. Okay, and then we can just call it in here by calling put file. Give it the context, the bucket name, which is session.bucket, the folder, plus. And now here's a little tricky. Where do we get the name of the file? How do I know the name of the file the user uploaded?
Part of form values.
Header.file name. Right, it comes from the header info from the form file. And then we give it the file, and it will upload it. So let's just catch that error the same way. Okay, this may need an extra slash, but I think actually the folder has a slash in it, so it's probably okay. But that might be a bug, but we'll see. So if I submit the form at the bottom, it should get to this rec method post. We should get the file out of the form, we should put it into Google Cloud Storage, and then we're done. We can render the same stuff we rendered before. So let's see if that works. Nope. Oh, right. I restarted the server, so we lost our session. So I got to create a new one. But that's good. It caught that, and so it redirected me appropriately. It's as if I was logged out. So now let's try that again. So did it upload it? That's the question. It did. Why didn't it show up? There's a good reason why it didn't show up.
Did it refresh the page?
It did.
Did it do something fast?
It could be that, but actually it's more fundamental here. My computer just logged. There it is.
You're getting it.
Yeah, I listed the contents of the bucket and then I uploaded the file to the bucket. So I just need to move this down, okay? My computer is lagging terribly right now for some reason. Okay. Makes sense, right? In other words, I would say go get the contents of the bucket, then I uploaded a new file, and so I'm showing the old version of the, so maybe now I could list it. But it may also not, I mean, I don't know, the consistency there is not sort of guaranteed, so it may show you a little stale, but anyway. So that's the basic idea, that's how you upload the file. All that remains is the downloading. We could keep doing that, but that's all we've done today. So I think it's time to move on to a different topic. So anyway, I'll add this code.